Now, the conversation that we will have here today will be a conversation about consent, specifically consent within relationships. If he said to her, do this for me right now or I'm going to physically harm you. If he said to her, give it up to me right now or you can't go to work tomorrow or you can't leave the house tomorrow, that in fact is coercion, because then that is, by definition, practicing getting what you want through force or threats. This conversation right here will be one of the most important conversations on this channel. And trust me when I say not to take that lightly as I say this. And in fact, I think that is many a content creator out there that has avoided this conversation because of the particular blowback that can happen. But y'all already know I'm in my side quest era of my content creation journey. So there's a lot more things that I do for fun up here. But believe me when I say that the result of this conversation, when we bring it back to a place of truth, will absolutely change lives. And no matter if you're a man or woman, I need you locked into this conversation because there's evil people out there. And whether or not they're evil because they're stupid, or if they're evil because they're just plain evil, they infect our society with their poison. But we are the antidote. So let's get active. Now, the conversation that we will have here today will be a conversation about consent, specifically consent within relationships. Now, I came across this. I was perusing on the Instagrams yesterday, and I came across this account called real_tunes. I believe that I've seen this account before, specifically their art style, but I didn't know that it was run by man-hating misandrist. And because the owner of Real Tunes has called me out, I think that it is very, very appropriate to have a real conversation. Now, from an art perspective, if the goal here is to drive conversation, then kudos to you. You've done an absolutely fantastic job of drumming up conversations, but the result of this comic that we're about to go through right here is women believing that men are grapers through trying to talk to their lady about having sex with them. There is a clear difference between convincing and coercion. And when they dress up intention as coercion, then coercion is grape. But let's see if that's what's actively happening within this conversation, because they also had a poll within my desktop view. I can't see the poll here, so I'm going to leave a screenshot for my editors to pop down up in here. When I came down up into it, it was 50-50. People believing that the actions of the man in the comic was in fact grape. It was 50-50 of people believing that towards not believing that. And when you were this split, and not only the comic is clearly not a demonstration of coercion, and you have the author of this comic chastising people who are speaking the truth of what's actually happening here, then we must get after it, okay? Let's go through the comic right now so we can have the same conversation, all right? This is the first slide. It says, "Not tonight, babe. I'm exhausted. How about in the morning? Let me get some sleep." Now, this is a comment from the young bonnet-wearing assassin, but I say that in jest because she's sleeping where bonnets are appropriate, not in the damn airport. Nevertheless, you can see the heart down up on here, and we go on to the next. "Oh, come on. I have to work early in the morning," says the man. "I've been waiting for you all day like a puppy dog sitting at the front door." She seems to crack a smile, all right? "I'm for real, baby girl. I got that dog in me. Woof." How often do we use humor in order to lighten the mood, my G's? All right? "Ha ha, shut up." "No, babe, you will be okay," she says. "I'm tired." All right? What does he then say? Now, if you're counting, this is his third attempt at the cheeks, okay? He says, "Come on, baby girl. You won't even have to do anything. I'll be quick, I promise, all right? I just want you, my baby girl. I love you. Now, reminder, they're sleeping together within the same bed. She just came from working. My context for this is that they are currently in a relationship. But yes, it's been his third attempt. His second attempt was in jest and humor. I got that dog in me, baby girl. All right. So she has said, I'm busy or you will be okay 1 or 2 times at this current junction. Damn, you can't really wait, huh? As he's kissing her. All right, fine. Let's get it on. Now, the next day. And apparently, she talks about her coitus interactions with people within the workforce. Or let's just say that these are her friends. But it reads, she says, I was tired. She looked way different without the bonnet, right? But I was tired. And I just gave in, but it was good though. I guess I'm glad I let him talk me into it. Homegirl down at the bottom says, sometimes it's like that, baby girl, right? She's speaking about compromise, small sacrifices, but at least we have some fun with it too. Notice the homegirl over here towards the left. No, Diamond Girl, he graped you. All right. What? Huh? As her edges splay. Jada, you single ass bitch. Okay, I added that part in, but she says, what the hell? Let's listen to Jada pop off. If you said no, and he kept pressuring you until you changed your mind to, all right, fine, that's coercion. And that is not okay. Keep a firm plant on this term right here of coercion, because it's not persuasion, it's not convincing, but it's coercion. Now, coercion is uniquely tied with grape. So if it is coercion, then Jada, the single ass girlfriend, has a point. You know, the girlfriend that would choose the bear over the man would have a point. But let's proceed. Jada, bitch, you're going too far now. It's not that deep. That's not something to be jumping to. And then the woman in question says, yeah, it wasn't like that. I had a good time. But coercion isn't consent. If it's not consent, then it's assault. The statement is very true. Enjoying it afterward doesn't erase how it started. You said no. We've normalized giving in and calling it a small compromise. No! We have to call it what it is, okay? But he's not like that. He would never hurt me. Intent, she says, doesn't erase impact. This is how it starts. Soon, he will know he can just say whatever to get that yes. It could get even worse. Thoughts at real_tunes. Now, again, the owner of this account doesn't agree with the comment that I put up into the comment box. And let's just go straight to the comment. Now, I write 21 hours ago, a second or third attempt is not, by definition, coercion. He didn't force her or threaten her. If this is coercion, then lock up every car salesman for fraud that's attempted to overcome your objections. Now, the basis for my statements is based in the definition of coercion, because if you look at her statements, she's right. Coercion is not consent. And I'm going to look this up with multiple definitions just so we can have an understanding of what this is. But just a quick Google search of what is the definition of coercion. It is the practice of persuasion, okay? Because persuasion and convincing is different than coercion. Someone to do something by using force or threats. Forcing somebody, threatening somebody, as opposed to persuading somebody or convincing somebody is markedly different of a conversation. As I take a look at what it was that was said here, where exactly was the force? Where exactly are the threats? Was it forceful when he says, I got that dog in me, baby girl, woof, right? Was it when he said, come on, you don't even have to do anything. I'll be quick, relax, baby girl, I just want you. I just miss you. Is this now our new definition of force? Or can it be argued that because this is a man, and because a man-hating feminist has changed the definition of what force means, we've now taken the real definition of grape and translated it into convincing or persuasion or having a conversation with? Where is the fear here? Where is the blackmail? Where is the threats? Where is the intimidation? All things that are involved with coercion. Now, here's the thing. Exchange the genders on this conversation. Would, of all of the women who said that this is grape, would they have said, if it was a woman asking a man for coitus, would they have said that this is grape? Or is it that so many of these lemming-minded man versus bear women, if it has anything to do with you within concert or cooperation of a man, it is oppression or patriarchy and misogyny and male chauvinistic pig, and he just wants you for one thing and only one thing, therefore it must be grape. Where is the line? Because those same women either wouldn't vote in a poll like this, or they would say, oh no, that's not that bad. Although she said no initially, a second, if not a third attempt is not grape. That's just something that he wants, and he's trying to convince you otherwise. And there is a strong path or a line of delineation between the very disgusting act of forcing somebody, right? Like if he says to her, you can't talk to your family or call your family if you don't give me the box. If he said to her, do this for me right now or I'm going to physically harm you. If he said to her, give it up to me right now, or you can't go to work tomorrow, or you can't leave the house tomorrow, that in fact is coercion. Because then that is, by definition, practicing getting what you want through force or threats. Now, this is the definition within Oxford. Let's look up the definition in a different dictionary. According to the Collins Dictionary, coercion is the act or process of persuading somebody forcefully, okay, to do something that they do not want to do. It involves using threats, pressure, or intimidation to compel actions against their free will. Let's head over to Webster. Coercion is defined as the act, process, or power of compelling a person to act or choice through force, threats, or intimidation. It often involves using pressure or unlawful intimidation-based behavior to overcome an individual's will, making them act against their preference. Now, the one word within here that is nebulous or ambiguous in nature is this understanding of the word pressure. Was it pressure that he applied onto her to get the box? And I would say no, because his follow-up questions were not intense, right? With one of the questions being humorous. And it also wasn't unreasonable. This wasn't the 20th time or the 10th time or the 5th time or the 3rd time in a day that they interacted in this way that he wanted to. So it wasn't unreasonable degrees of pressure. And to substantiate this idea of pressure, let's just take a look. Is coercion pressure? Yes. Coercion is a form of intense, unreasonable, and often illegal pressure used to compel someone to act against their will. Highlight intense, unreasonable, and illegal pressure. Now, if you live your life in constant consternation with men, if you live your life constantly at odds with men, if you live your life where you've suffered through some sort of trauma, right? Like you believe that you were harmed or you were actually harmed by a man within your life, and you carry this burden within you that you haven't relinquished through therapy, that you haven't gone through your spirituality. For the women that believe that men are predators, you will determine that this man is a graper like Jada and so many other women in this real life poll actually have. But unfortunately, the woman like Jada runs rampant throughout our society, and these are the ones that will take a feminist studies course and attribute you to be coercive in nature, and will call the cops to falsely allege that you raped her. That is why this conversation is so fundamentally important, because the more that we continue to coddle the mindset of these losers, the more that as a man, your life is at stake. Let's go through some of the comments here just so we can continue on having a fair and real conversation. First comment at the top after I wrote this said, I hope you cover this on your channel. MT on me. I got you, baby. Hello. You're finally a man with some sense. And here goes the first response from the misandrous owner of this account. This is very wrong. By the way, misandrous owner, do a comment about me. All right. Do a comic about male focus, commentary channels, male podcasts. All right. You know, we could have an honest sparring back and forth. And there's a little bit in here that makes me think that you want to rage bait people in order to enhance the amount of eyes that's on this. And for that, kudos, you did well. But, you know, we both going to make money off each other if it comes down to it. Hello. This is very wrong, MTR. Please do not spread misinformation. You can look up the definition in the dictionary with 39 likes. To persuade by force or threats. Look like someone looked up the definition. Webster said he's right, dog, with 40 likes. Phoenix Blue, all right. A lady, all right. Maybe this is an MTR. I'm not sure. I thought that the readers were supposed to share their thoughts, all right. Yeah, but they want to, misconstrue the feeling of the comment section to placate to whatever it is that they think about. Seems like it's for more rage bait. I absolutely think so. Must be for rage bait. People are just majorly less intelligent these days. Real Tunes responds. What does that have to do with anything? I'm still going to tell you that you're spreading misinformation. Okay. I put up Webster on my story, Real Tune says, and it says more than what you're putting up. Plus, it doesn't even say that exactly. Y'all really need to stop lying. I went over 3 different definitions of it, dog. So, you know, no one's lying on you. All right. Let's go a little bit more. Let's see the next time that there is a response that I think is worthy of dissection. This overweight.
Damn.
Big-backed young lady, Huavala the Virgin, says, you're grapey. Okay. Showtime says, this whole page, so much misandry, definitely, blah, female, ran. Let's keep on going down. Says the one peddling the same misinformation to appease a certain audience. Comical. We got some more people agreeing with me down up in here. We have some more harlots saying to look at the definition and to come back and respond. Okay, this is your response, baby girl. All right. Let me see. Normalize expecting someone's first no. Why do you need a second and a third attempt? Just accept the no. You won't have to do anything. He has hands to use him on himself. Now let's analyze this for a quick second. Matter of fact, before we analyze this, let's take a look at her profile just so we can be speaking the exact same language here. Writer, musician, vegan, photography, dog fanatic, explorer. Okay. Unmarried and dog lover that is average at best with literally no man in sight. Okay. Proper context achieved. Let's go back down up into the comments. Ma'am, literally nothing in society works this way. There are not companies that run off of accepting no for the first time. Even if you apply as an employee and a company says no, you may want to reapply. Sales doesn't work this way, right? They often train second and third attempts. Literally nothing runs on if you get told no, not to try to appeal to the company, the person, in a way to maybe get that yes. Now, if this was the 6th, 7th, 8th attempt, if it was done with intimidation, with blackmail, with extreme forces of pressure, right, that makes her feel littler or less than or removes her freedom, then I agree with you. That is coercion. But you feel this way because you hate men. And the thought of you cooperating to the needs of a man, it just makes you feel lesser than, because that's what the feminists, right? That's what the feminism propaganda has told you, right? You don't need no man. So a man asking for something that is valuable or prioritized for him, if he doesn't just stand down immediately, then man bad, man evil. But that's all of what your first layer of thinking allows you to think through. And more than likely, through your lack of cooperation in a situation like this, or you're always juxtaposing men for being evil, you can't see it like that. And that more than likely is a foundational reason as why you remain single. But this is how dead bedrooms can get created, because her response is, you have hands, pleasure yourself. Imagine a man who highly prioritizes sexual connection. And although feminists will make y'all think like sexual dynamic between man and woman, if it's a man asking it, it's icky. But if it's a woman asking it, then it's okay and it can be tolerated. But sexual dynamic and connection is often rated as one of the top reasons why people step out of relationships or why relationships fail. But your response to that is not one with empathy, but it's use your damn hands. Okay, got it. Let's keep on going. We got some more people that agreed with me. This is an example of another human being and not her body, not comparable with objects. I can understand the argument here, but I reject this, because if human beings really considered themselves higher than, then why do we have sex work? Why do we have OnlyFans? Why do we have a system of women liberated through feminism that objectify themselves on the internet for the bag? Their product is their bodies, and they display it to advertise something to get an end result that is beneficial towards them. My feelings to get an end result that is beneficial for them. Let's proceed. They need to be locked up. I believe that the Real Tunes responded to me one more time. Let's just go down and try to see that next response. Always one miserable itch trying to destroy her homegirl's relationship. Let's see. At the Real MTR, not responding to this thread anymore. Like I said, that information is wrong. I posted the definition in its entirety on my story. We'll be posting in future tunes. Please do not spread misinformation. Your channel is too big for that. Well, not only did I repost this to my Instagram, but now I'm doing a video on it on a much bigger platform than my Instagram. So, your turn. And I think that that is fine. You know, we promote critical discussions on this channel and not just accepting people who have been fed a dogma of hate against men. Well, anyway, I also wanted to bring up within this, shout out to the queen of accountability. Y'all better stop playing with Daphne, you heard? Daphne, friend of the channel and a personal friend of mine as well, chimed in actually before I did. Maybe I saw it because she initially chimed in on it, and then it came up in my Explore feed. But she says, reverse the roles and take the same poll and watch the responses. And she's 100% right. The poll responses is really indicative of this gender war that I've been talking about, and the idea that subtle words have been changed mostly from a certain subset and, dare I say, a certain political affiliation. But definitions have been changed in order to paint only the man as the evil person within a situation like this. But if you exchange the genders and it's a woman who is asking second or third attempts of something that is meaningful or important or impactful towards her for the retention or the consistency of a relationship, then the results of that, Paul, would be markedly different. And gentlemen, this is what happens when you let hate and feminist ideology run rampant. And it has real impact of who you are and how this might in reality impact you. Imagine getting falsely alleged because this is what you asked, and then being met by a judge or a jury of your peers that thinks that this is coercion. And how many men are currently sitting in jail because they had nobody speak up for or fight against this particular narrative? Shit, I go over these false allegations ad nauseum on this channel. And in fact, I've actually found some false allegation content that we'll watch right now.
Women lie about grape a lot more than we want to admit. You'll often hear it repeated that only 2% of grape allegations are false. But that's nonsense, and I'm about to prove it to you. You see, I've been falsely accused, and I'm going to tell you a story about that. Once upon a time, I met a lady online who was into, let's say, adventurous stuff. We met a bunch of times. Online, she liked to be very verbose about the things she was getting up to with me. She liked the attention, I suppose. We were never in any actual relationship, and over time we kept in touch, exchanging pleasantries. And then about a year later, she got herself a boyfriend. That boyfriend, he was insecure. She'd also met a new group of people who she wanted to be friends with. They weren't big fans of mine. Guess what happened next? You're right. The police arrested me, they charged me, they raided my house, they confiscated all my digital devices, and they proceeded to hide all the contemporaneous communications that I'd had with that girl. But purely by the grace of Steve Jobs, all of those communications had been automatically saved in iCloud backups. It took me 2 years to get those charges thrown out of court though, and another 4 years to sue the police for wrongful arrest and win. It was so clear from the evidence that this person had lied to the police that I then approached the police and insisted that they press charges against her. Guess what they said? Right again. They refused. After much back and forth, the sergeant in charge told me this, and I quote, "The Solicitor General does not have the appetite to prosecute women for this type of offence." Not being one to give up easily though, I investigated my options. And it turns out that you can actually bring a private criminal prosecution. It's not a civil case, you're not suing them. You're charging them personally with a criminal offence. You're the prosecutor as opposed to the police or the Department of Public Prosecutions. And to set the ball in motion, you've got to get past the court registrar. And to do that, I compiled a 380-page brief of evidence. The registrar told me this, and I quote, "I get approached about these all the time and I haven't approved one in 15 years. But the evidence you have is so comprehensive, I'm going to let you go ahead with it." Over the next 12 months, I appeared in court 8 times. I got numerous letters of concern from the Department of Public Prosecutions until eventually their barristers started showing up in court and sitting with her lawyer. About a month later, I got a letter from the Attorney General himself advising me that he's decided to take over the matter, a right that he does have in law, and drop it. Fun story, but why am I boring you with it? Well, do you remember that stat I told you at the top of the video? 2% of grape allegations turn out to be false. That number is the basis of the narrative that we're all obliged to accept, that false grape allegations are extremely rare. Problem is that number, that's the number of accusers who end up being charged and convicted of making false allegations. And kind of makes sense. How else would they measure it? But as I've just illustrated for you, our justice system not only has no appetite to make that happen, it'll actually go right out of its way to make sure it doesn't happen. So that 2% number has to be inaccurate. And here, ladies and gentlemen, here's a gigantic hippopotamus in the corner of the courtroom that nobody wants to mention. Everybody knows that conviction rates in grape prosecutions are notoriously low, running between 6 and 8%. Now, there can be a number of reasons for that, not least the difficulty in proving guilt beyond reasonable doubt. But riddle me this. Let's use Occam's razor. What's the most obvious reason for a criminal accusation that results in a criminal prosecution not leading to a criminal conviction? Oh wait, you're right. The most obvious reason is because the accusation was proven in court to have been false in the first place. So instead of being 2%, that number could actually be enormous. Here's one last question for you. What will happen if you make it extremely apparent to women that there'll be no consequences for making false grape allegations? Yep. More false allegations. And the irony is that everyone is fully aware of this. And you know who makes up everyone? Cops, judges, juries, all of them watching this process in action and all of them becoming more and more cynical of all grape allegations. even the genuine ones. So who benefits from our justice system giving false rape allegations a hall pass? It's not the system itself, it's definitely not those who are accused, and it's definitely not genuine victims. So it must just be liars.
A crazy woman can ruin a man's life in 2 seconds. All it takes is an allegation to ruin a man's life, bro. Like, he could even be proved not guilty and it'll still ruin his life. An allegation can lose you brand deals, can lose you a job, can get you kicked off a team, and it can literally ruin your life. It's crazy how it works, because somebody can just make up an allegation, ruin everything for you, and then they can just continue living their life regularly. Like, why don't those women go to prison when they just lie on a man? It makes no sense, because the guy works his whole life to get to that point and gets everything stripped off an allegation, and then that crazy woman could just go right back on the street. It's very fucked up, it's very scary, and this is a very crooked system that women don't get arrested for making false allegations.
So let's talk about the men who are falsely accused by toxic women of DV, rape, all sorts of horrific things that unfortunately the system is designed to automatically believe the female and, you know, not believe the male. Now, this is just happening so often. I've had so many men reach out to me and tell me their stories. I was talking to a man the other day. He's had to spend over $200,000 to clear his name of false accusations of DV. Another guy has spent over $100,000. In fact, there's just so many, and they've all had to spend a minimum $100K to clear their name of these false accusations. Now, of course, like, it's huge financial stress, but let's have a look at the mental and emotional distress as well. Often these women are also using the children as pawns, and that's why they falsely accuse the men. It's to help them in a custody battle. And it's not because, you know, the men are terrible fathers, although there are some terrible fathers out there. It's because, you know, they are spiteful, they are scorned women, and they are using the children, they are using these false accusations to hurt the man for leaving them. Often it's the men that are actually in DV relationships with these toxic women. And these toxic women will tell them if they try and leave, I will go and falsely accuse you of DV. I will go and falsely accuse you of rape and all those sorts of things. They use it as coercive control to try and keep the man to stay. And when the man finally gets the courage to get up and walk away, unfortunately, they make the man pay, and they make them pay real good and proper. And where this really annoys me, well, actually, there's a couple of things that really annoy me about this. Number one, like, we have an absolute epidemic of men who go and unalive themselves, right? Because the emotional stress and trauma is just too much to bear, and society is not geared to support them, is not geared to believe them, even if they're in DV relationships. And number two, what really peeves me off is there's a lot of women out there who are genuine victims of DV, rape, all those sorts of horrendous things. And you toxic women lying and making up false accusations make things really, really hard for the real victims. And that is absolutely disgusting to me. Like, I had a female client recently who is in a very serious DV relationship. Twice she went to the police to get an IBO, and twice she was turned away. Why? Because you women who lie and make false accusations make it really, really hard for the real victims. It took her 3 attempts. She had to actually go to the Family V liaisons officer to finally be taken seriously and get a much needed IBO out on her partner. Okay, so if you are one of these toxic women, please stop and think about what you're doing, because you're actually sending men to the grave and you're making things really hard for real, genuine female victims. I don't care if you feel scorned. I don't care if your little ego has been bruised. Go and get some help, okay? If you are that scorned that you feel the need to have to make up false accusations against these men, go and get some help. You're in a very, very bad way mentally if that's what you are doing. And these poor men, you know, especially when they're falsely accused of rape, that follows them for the rest of their lives. Even when they're proven innocent, that mud sticks. And I've had so many male clients that I've had to look after that have been traumatized and mentally scarred for life because of these false accusations. It's not fair. It's not right. And those of us who are healthy women, we need to call this out. We need to stand by these men because the system is not there for them. The system is not believing them. So it takes a village, right? As they say, we must support these men. I'm calling on all healthy women to stand up and start supporting men in this way. If you know a toxic woman who is falsely accusing a man of these things, go and be a witness for them. Go and write an affidavit for them in their court case to help free their name. Because the courts do listen to when another female stands up. That is the power that we have as females, but we have to use that power for good, not evil.
Those stories are damn crazy, but this video is getting way too long. All right, I just wanted to surface this conversation, and hopefully the comments do what I think that the comments are going to do. We can continue to encroach on this conversation. This is just so crazy though, right? If someone asks you for $5 and then you say no, and then they talk about a story of something happening in their past life, and then I end up giving them the $5, like, did they just rob me, right? Is that fraud because they coerce, right? Like, no, let's not call things what they are not. Words need to have meaning. They need to have definitions. But this is the tactics. They place themselves in this overarching, I'm in an oppressive, patriarchal state. Men are evil. They're trying to dominate me. They're trying to kill me. So I'm going to choose the bear over the man because it makes sense within their infant-like minds. And inevitably, it's just a form of control because they cannot physically dominate men. They'll act like they're in a weaker position and act like you're accosting them when that's not really what's happening in order to have a larger body, in this case would be a government body, to enact violence against you by throwing you into a jail, all through a false allegation. It's absolutely absurd at where we are at here today, but this is it. Also, to add confusion to this conversation, look at this comment right here. I like to be begged a little bit sometimes. So, young lady, it's a kink of mine. There's a difference in my no. I do have a boundary set no, but then I do also have a flirty chase me, beg for it, daddy no, and my demeanor says which one it is. So not only that, but now men have to guess from situation to situation based off of the context. Have a little bit of empathy, right? Like have more empathy that all situation and context are different. And even you have some young ladies where this is in fact a kink. All right. Nevertheless, we've reached the end of this conversation. I might have to bring this down for a live stream. But guys, let me know what you think about all of this. I'm sure for those that are still with me right now, you've been feverishly typing down up in the comment section. Let your thoughts be known because these videos represent a moment in time, and the comment section represents artifacts of how it is that we feel about something. And the longer that we allow these trauma-filled people to go consequence-free or at least critique-free from their bullshit, the more that they get to reign free to continue to infect the world with their poison. But all right, guys, drop me a line down below. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Be safe out there, and I'll see you soon. Until next time, peace.
She belongs to the street.
Girl, don't hold my hand. You a mattress actress on the OnlyFans. Get your money, girl, but damn, how is that your only plan? What you gonna do when you get too old to strip and dance? Get up out your echo chamber screaming period and yes. You a low down dirty woman if you try to get knocked